Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining me today because we have some very exciting General Hospital news to talk about, and it's definitely worth the wait. You know, I've been following General Hospital for decades now, and I still get a real kick out of it every single time something big starts brewing. The other afternoon, I was sitting on the porch with my coffee, just like I always do, when I caught the latest updates about Britt Westbourne. Goodness gracious, it got me so worked up, I had to put my cup down and just shake my head. What a story they're telling with this one. For years now, poor Britt has been walking around with this terrible fear hanging over her like a storm cloud. She believed she inherited that awful Huntington's disease from her father, Caesar Faison. That kind of news would break anybody's spirit. She spent so much time worrying, planning her life around it, and trying to make the most of whatever time she thought she had left. It really tugged at my heartstrings watching her go through all that. But lately, the show has been dropping some hints that make me think maybe, just maybe, things aren't exactly what they've seemed all this time. Kills Cullum and Jen Sidwell, those two smooth operators, have been feeding Britt this experimental medicine for quite a while. They told her it was helping control her symptoms, and she believed them. Of course she did. When you're scared and desperate for hope, you'll grab onto anything that feels like a lifeline. I've seen it in real life too, folks, holding on to every little bit of good news when the doctor gives them bad news. What really got me thinking was when Lucas Jones examined her back in September last year. That boy knows his stuff, and after checking her over real carefully, he didn't find any signs of Huntington's at all. Not one single sign. Britt told herself it must be because the medicine from Cullum and Sidwell was working miracles. But between you and me, I've got a strong feeling there's something much deeper and darker going on here. I can't help but wonder if the whole thing was a cruel setup from the very beginning. Could those two men have been playing a long, calculated game with Britt, using her fear of the disease to pull her strings and get her to help them with their shady plans, especially that final project connected to her father? It just doesn't sit right with me. Manipulating a woman who's already been through so much heartbreak in her life feels downright low down and dirty. I'll tell you what, if this turns out to be nothing but a big fat lie they cooked up to control her, I'm going to be pretty angry on her behalf. Britt's a fighter. She's tough, smart, and she's got a good heart even when life keeps knocking her down. She deserves real answers, not more games and tricks. Us old fans who've watched her journey all these years just want to see her finally catch a break and find some real peace and happiness. Still, I have to admit, this kind of twist is exactly why I keep coming back to General Hospital. Just when you think you know where the story's going, they throw in something that makes you lean forward in your chair and say, well, I'll be darned. I'm sitting here now wondering what Britt's going to do when the truth finally comes out. If she's been played for a fool all this time, I sure hope she comes back swinging twice as hard. That girl's got more strength in her than she knows. You know, the more I think about this whole situation with Britt, the more it gets under my skin. Those two fellows, Kills Cullum and Jen Sidwell, I swear they've been cooking up something pretty clever and downright sneaky for a long time. I've seen my share of schemers in my days, but these two take the cake. For the longest time, a lot of us watching General Hospital have had this little feeling in the back of our minds that maybe Britt never actually had Huntington's disease at all. Now it looks like that hunch might be right. What if that original diagnosis she got back in Canada was wrong from the start? Or even worse, what if one of those two men had their hands in it way back then? Could they have messed with the test results on purpose just to make her believe she inherited that terrible disease from her father, Caesar Faison? That kind of cold-hearted planning makes my stomach turn. And even if they didn't mess with the first diagnosis, they sure jumped on it later. When they saved Britt back in early 2023, I bet they realized pretty quick that she didn't actually have the disease. Instead of telling her the truth and giving her some peace, they decided to set a trap. They started giving her this so-called experimental medicine and told her it was controlling her symptoms. But between you and me, I think they were just feeding her sugar pills or some fake serum, a placebo, like the doctors call it. She wasn't sick at all, but they made her believe she was getting better thanks to them. That's what really gets me. They used her biggest fear against her. Britt's been carrying that heavy weight for years, thinking her time was running out, and these two saw it as the perfect way to pull her into their plans. They made her feel grateful, made her feel like she owed them. Every time they needed her help with their shady business, especially anything connected to her father's old projects, they'd dangle that medicine like a carrot. Take this and you'll be okay, they probably said with those slick smiles of theirs. I'll be honest with you, it makes me a little mad. Britt's already had such a hard life, full of heartbreak and tough choices. She didn't need two grown men playing games with her health and her future. If this whole thing was just one big setup so they could control her, then that's low even for soap opera standards. But I've got to admit, it's also pretty smart in a twisted kind of way. They didn't just lie to her once. They built a whole long-term plan around her fear. Now I'm sitting here wondering how deep this rabbit hole really goes. Did they plan this from the moment they met her? Were they laughing behind her back the whole time she was worrying herself sick? I sure hope when the truth comes out, Britt gives them both a piece of her mind and she's strong enough to handle it. And after everything she's been through, she deserves to know she's actually healthy and free from that terrible shadow hanging over her. You know, what really strikes me about this whole mess is just how smoothly Cullum and Sidwell's plan has been working all this time. It's almost like they wrote the perfect script and Britt has been following it without even knowing. She's a strong, intelligent woman and a fine doctor, but when fear gets deep into your bones, it can cloud your judgment, something fierce. Those two men managed to keep her right under their thumb by making her believe she needed their special medicine to stay alive. Every time they needed her to go along with their plans, especially anything tied to her father's old business, she stepped up because she thought she owed them her life. It's clever in a dark sort of way, but it also feels pretty low down to me. I've been thinking a lot about where Britt stands right now. She's out there on the run with young Rocco Falconeri, trying to keep her head above water and protect what matters. That poor woman is carrying so much weight on her shoulders while running from one problem to another. I can't help but wonder if, in the quiet moments, she's starting to question everything. Maybe she's noticing that the symptoms she's been so afraid of aren't getting worse the way she expected. Could it be that those aches and worries she's been feeling are mostly in her head, caused by years of living under constant fear and the power of believing she was sick? Lord, I hope she starts putting the pieces together soon. Nobody should have to live like that, always looking over their shoulder and wondering how much time they have left. The big question that keeps rolling around in my mind is this: is Britt really dying? Or has this all been one giant cruel joke played on her? Does she actually have Huntington's disease like she's believed for so long, or was that diagnosis either wrong from the beginning or turned into a weapon by Cullum and Sidwell? When they rescued her back in 2023, I suspect they quickly figured out she was healthy, but saw an opportunity to use her fear for their own benefit, giving her fake medicine and calling it a miracle cure. That's the kind of thing that makes my blood run a little hot. She didn't deserve to have her deepest fears twisted and used against her like that. I'll be straight with you. Watching Britt go through all this has touched me more than I expected. She's had such a tough road in life, full of heartbreak, bad choices, and people letting her down. To think she might have been healthy this whole time only to be kept trapped by a lie, well, it just doesn't seem fair. But that's what makes General Hospital so special. These stories remind us how complicated life can be and how even the strongest people can be fooled when they're scared. I truly believe Britt has the strength to face the truth when it finally comes out. She's a fighter, and I'm hoping with all my heart that she comes through this not just alive, but finally free from the fear, free from those two schemers, and ready to live a real, full life. So what do you folks think? Do you believe Britt is truly sick with Huntington's, or is this all part of a bigger, darker scheme by Cullum and Sidwell? I'd love to hear your thoughts because I know a lot of you have been following her story just as long as I have. Let's keep cheering for Britt together. No matter what happens, I'll be right here watching, hoping for a brighter chapter in her life. She deserves it more than most.